Rand Paul has been quite lonely, being a voice of opposition to the Trump tariff paradigm. And they want it both ways. They're like, this is not a tax increase. It's not a tax on consumers. But they claim that there'll be all this magic revenue that comes in to offset.
Well, there's one of the dangers of having a general tariff. It's in effect a new tax. And so that's a tax burden on the American people. And when politicians say, oh, we'll put in this tax, but we'll reduce other taxes, clutch onto your wallet because it's soon going to be empty.
Yeah.
The tax burden is going up. I live in New Jersey. Decades ago, they imposed an income tax under the guise of reducing our super high property taxes. Well, today we have the highest property taxes 40 years later in the country, and a dreadful state income tax, which maxes out at almost 11%. So that's a new tax, and that should be debated. And I do think, though, that this is where Trump, sometimes it's good to be lucky, even if you don't realize it, is I think the Supreme Court will throw out the 10% tariff. That is a permanent tax, it's not an emergency, and so therefore Congress can pass tax increases, not presidents by signing an executive order. Back in the 1930s, we had this thing called the National Recovery Administration, which was the most statist, fascistic piece of legislation we've ever had in our history, where every industry was controlled in prices and wages and working, how you set up your company and everything. Eventually, the Supreme Court threw it out unanimously, and Roosevelt was furious, tried to pack the court, but it saved his presidency because the economy was going to do even worse under him than Hoover, and the Supreme Court saved him. Well, what I'm hoping happens here is the Supreme Court saves us from these tariffs, and we get back to the pro-growth stuff.
Yeah.
And if you want a tariff, get it through Congress. Good luck with that.
Yeah. So this sort of echoes of the sales tax versus flat tax debate that we used to have, because the president has trumped eliminating the income tax and the IRS in exchange for a tariff-based system. Those numbers don't actually add up. But
well, that gets to a rather painful for them truth, and that is, yes, in the 1800s we had tariffs, but we didn't have the income tax, we didn't have the payroll taxes, we didn't have the corporate tax and a lot of the other stuff they put on since. Even in 1929, Matt, when we had the most sophisticated economy in the world, the federal government was 3% of GDP, state government's about 10. Today, pick a number, 35, 36 when you add it up. And so it's a totally different environment. Now, if we were starting all over, maybe you could make a case. But again, if something has been around, like the regime we have today, to try to change it overnight and not think there's going to be massive disruptions, no, that's not the way the real world works, and they should have learned from COVID. When you have the lockdowns, it's not like turning the light switch on or off. You've disrupted very sophisticated things around the world, and so people go on and do other things. Companies may pull up stakes. Some country may be still in the COVID mode, another one like Sweden may be in the non-COVID. So all the synchronization you had in the past gets thrown out, and it takes time to put it back together again.
So I've come up with a compromise, and I got Senator Rand Paul to agree to this compromise. If we could return to government as a percentage of GDP that was true under President McKinley, I think you would come on board and say, well, okay, we can accept some tariffs.
Well, but try getting back to
that might be hard.
McKinley era, especially when they say, oh, that means Social Security goes out the window, your Medicare goes out the window. And
all the entitlements are gone.
One of the things is that our Republicans haven't learned how to navigate this. You can't come across as trying to take something away. That's when I ran, I always said for younger people, you bring in a new system. Don't scare people who are on it. You give them a choice, but for younger people, they have a new system where instead of tax on society, you're creating capital when you put money aside for your future retirement. And you get to choose the age at which you wish to retire instead of Washington politicians.
Thank you for watching Kibbe on Liberty. You can watch new episodes every Wednesday anywhere that you consume podcasts, on YouTube, on Apple, on Spotify, whatever. Watch, click, like, check it out.